Hi guys, I'm Hetvi. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and today we are going to discuss what are the 10 different approaches that you can take into any thesis project. Actually, this can be applied to any architecture project in general, but let's talk about thesis in specific. When you're in architecture school, you have seen a lot of people around you, your seniors who've done thesis, who explain their thesis to you, and you think to yourself, wow, these guys are doing some amazing stuff. And when you are at that stage, when you have to choose what your thesis topic is going to be, you just go blank. You just feel stuck and lost, and you don't know what you're doing and all of that. But you know what? In reality, everybody goes through the same thing. Nobody knows what their end product is going to be, and that is completely fine. Like, some people might have some idea what they want to do, but most people don't. So everybody's just kind of winging it. Everybody goes through the same thing. They don't know where to start and how do they get to where they are at the end of the thesis project. What you see and on the presentation, that is not actually the entire story. Everybody goes through the same confusion of not knowing what they are doing, but eventually, after these multiple discussions with their guides and a lot of these peer discussions, you actually pin down what your final topic is going to be, or like you figure it out eventually when you're working on the project. You're doing trials and errors of different concepts and theories, and as you learn more about the initial thing that you started with, you finally build up your thesis little by little, and then you have your amazing thesis project in the end. As I have seen a lot of people around me do these amazing theses and have these amazing topics, I have figured out what are the different entry points that one can take into any thesis project. So let's talk about it. You know what? Let's start talking about what are the various components of any thesis project, okay? There's a concept or a theory, there's something that you're interested in working with, there's a question that you want to address, there is a certain user or a target group, there is a program, then there's a location, you have your building systems, and then you have your materials. Well, have you guys heard of this Netflix series called Kaleidoscope, which has these episodes which you can watch in any order and it still makes complete sense? Your thesis project is something like the Kaleidoscope series. So all of these 8 aspects, you can actually pick any of them and put it in any order and it will still make sense. Well, not really, right? But anyways, you can actually start with any topic first, and then you can like build on it, and then you'll eventually have the thesis project that you've always dreamed of. It's a non-linear process. You can actually start with any of these 8 chapters, you can place it on the top, and then as you're building on it, all the other blocks will actually fall into place. So let's talk about each of these aspects one by one, and then we can talk about how things can progress further. So first one is your interest. Think about how your topic of interest can connect with architecture. Let's say you're interested in dance. You can look at what are the various forms of dance and how various forms are evolving, how new forms of dance are coming, what are the different spaces that they are being performed in. Maybe like the streets or the performance theater. You can think about various principles of dance, for example, like balance, and you can use that as a concept for your building. You can actually make the whole building perform. Like, you can start with dance and maybe design a performative building. Let's take another example. For example, if you're interested in wine, okay, so you can think about the whole process, like from the birth to the tasting part of the wine. So how do you grow it? How do you manufacture it? How do you store it? How do you present it? How do you, like, the whole drinking, like the whole tasting experience? How do you sell it? Whatever. So like start from zero to and see how you can design your spaces to enhance this whole experience. Let's look at the next aspect, the user group. You can decide who you want to work with as users at the beginning itself. Like maybe you want to work with waste pickers, women, children, animals, government employees, policemen, anything. Let's say you want to work with children. You can think about kid friendly spaces, kid friendly neighborhoods, the schools, the hospitals for kids, or anything actually which revolves around a kid's life. You can look at what are the things that make a child happy or creates a safe environment for a child, and then you can decide to design that. You can also start with a program. This is a fairly direct approach. If you are certain that you want to work with maybe a school or exhibition center or maybe a five-star hotel or maybe some religious institutions, then you can do that as well. You can look at the evolution of that certain institution. You can also look at how the requirements have changed, how the usage has changed, what are the upcoming trends, and then you can decide to work towards it. You can also look at programs that are of temporary nature, maybe like Navratri Pandal, your Ganpati Pandals, your festivals, those Little Flea and like Burning Man Festival, and your melas. You can actually look at those kind of programs as well. Maybe you want to start with a location. If there is a location that you genuinely want to work with, maybe it's your native place, maybe it's your own neighborhood, maybe it's a place that you have visited before and would want to work on. Maybe there's a project that you did in some location and then you want to continue working on that. So you can do that as well. You can also look at the Kolivadas, historic cities, disaster prone cities, or something if you're interested in them as well. You can also start with a real world problem. Maybe you're interested in the global climate crisis, sea level rise, or deforestation, or earthquakes, or migration, or homelessness, or things like that. You can start with looking at the problems, its statistics, what is happening, what can you do about it, probably. And then you can form your thesis, you can build on your thesis based on that. You can also start with looking at a concept or a theory that you may have learned in your architectural theory class. If you are oriented towards the theory sides of architecture, you can look at concepts like the garden city, livable city, pedestrian city, the design of public spaces, the design of a city itself, like the urban planning of it, and what is the idea of a city, its evolution, the different styles of architecture, sensory architecture, and so on. You can start with this concept and then you can build on it, and then you can add in your other aspects like the user group or the location, and then you can build on it further. You can also start with the construction side of things if you're interested in that as well. Like your thesis could be completely technical from the get-go. You can look at the nature of the structures. Maybe you are interested in lightweight structures, temporary structures, structures for seismic zones, for flood prone areas, then you can do that as well. You can also think about starting with maybe a building system. You want to experiment with long span structures or a different kind of structural system. Maybe you want to experiment with 3D printing or parametric structures, then you can do that as well. Your starting point could be materials as well. Maybe you want to work with bamboo, mud, steel, carbon fiber, sustainable materials that have been all the rage right now. You can start with those and then you can build up on the other aspects as well. So basically what I'm trying to say is you can start with any of these aspects first. You can research on it, then you can add other parameters which are the other components of a thesis, and then you can start building on all of that and tying it all up, and then you'll eventually arrive at what your final thesis is going to be. It is not a linear process and you'll have a lot of back and forths eventually, and your guides and your mentors will all give you all of these suggestions on ways to go, but this is like a basic list of how you can start with it, and you know better, you can do that on your own, you're capable enough, so just go and do your thesis, you'll rock it. Oh, wait, before you go, there's one more set of topics that people have taken before, and it is kind of like offbeat topics. So you can like look at dystopian futures, utopian futures, or building on Mars, building for ship, building underground, and all of those offbeat topics are there. So you can also explore that if you are interested in those. But if you're still confused, what are the topics that you're interested in, or what do you want to start with, go check out my video that I've published earlier, and then come back to this one, and maybe it will make sense for you. So try that out, and drop in the comments below if you have any other queries or questions or things that you would like me to address, and I will do that to you in the next videos. Thank you. See you guys, and hope you have a rocking thesis. Bye bye.